Anybody have anything come to mind when I ask you about a remote control or what you would use a remote control for? Cadet Dodona?
TV set.
TV set, right. Anything else? Cadet Edwards?
Video games.
Video games. Right, so if I was to ask an Air Force pilot what he might use a controller for, he might say for an airplane. Good afternoon, Captain Smith, fellow cadets. My name is Cadet 3rd Class Molly McEachern, and today I'll be briefing you on who uses RPA and why. So a brief overview. First I'll go over what is RPA. I'll talk about who uses it, some uses for it, and some missions that it may support. I'll go over some advantages of it opposed to a traditional airplane, and then I will wrap it up with a summary and entertain any questions you may have. So to begin, what are RPAs? RPAs are remotely piloted aircrafts. They are unmanned airplanes that are controlled on ground by pilots. And although they may have routes that are predetermined and they can go on autopilot, they are always continuously controlled on the ground. They can fly for long endurance, so they can go for up to 24 hours, sometimes even longer, depending on which RPA you're using. Also, they can fly at a high altitude, up to 50,000 feet. Now, depending on which mission you're trying to support, they may fly low altitude or they may fly high. Colonel Eric S. Mathewson says that RPAs are kind of the iPhone of aircrafts. And what he means by this is there are a ton of different uses, which I'll go into detail about in a few minutes, but they can switch between uses very easily and they're very efficient. So who uses RPA? Obviously the Air Force will use RPA. We can see what's going on the ground and we can tell ground forces if they're running into trouble. And if they are, RPAs are equipped with missiles and different weapons that can support suppressing the enemy's forces against us. So the other branches can get use out of this. They can use it for search and rescue. They can use it just for surveillance or reconnaissance. Also, NASA, the CIA, and the US Border Protection have all used RPA for different surveillance features. And also meteorologists have used this. There's something called the MTS ball, which is on the front of the aircraft. And it's basically full of sensors. And what happens is people will sit and monitor the sensors. And there's a pilot that runs it and then people who are interpreting that data constantly. And you can see many things with this. So meteorologists have used this to take a picture of an area they suspect might be hit with a storm, say a hurricane or a tornado. They can take many different pictures with the MTS ball on the front of the RPA, and then they can take a picture after a storm. They can overlap the images and see just where the most damage was hit, and they can send out people that can help in those areas, so it can help pinpoint target areas of help. So other uses of RPAs, they can use them for commercial aerial surveillance, and you can use the MTS ball on the front for wildfire mapping, home security, road patrol, many different things besides what the Air Force or other branches may use them for. Also, reconnaissance can be used in traditional military missions. Transport and airdrop. This is an important advantage that I'll talk about in a minute, but they have internal and external payloads, which is just areas that they can increase the carrying capacity of the aircraft. So during transportation, you might just transport something inside the frame of the aircraft, and you can also do airdrops with it. So in 2006, the NOAA, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, used this for scientific research, and they got close to hurricanes and were able to map those using the RPAs. Also, during armed attacks, if we see that people on the ground are going to run into trouble, we have Hellfire missiles on the remotely piloted aircrafts that can hit dangerous ground targets. Also, these are unmanned, so you don't need to worry about having the pilots get injured in these attacks. Lastly, search and rescue. They have sensors that can work in all weather conditions, whether you're flying low, below the clouds, or above. There are different sensors that will work in each situation. So the advantages. They're unarmed, so you can send them to dangerous places, and you don't have to worry about the pilots getting injured. Also, you can leave more ground forces at home. Since the pilots and the sensor information is all sent to a base back home, you are able to get this information sent there and keep more troops and people home. Also, pilots' use can be maximized. So I talked about how they can be used in airdrop, and the big part of this is that airdrop is very important to get information, to get material and supplies to people in other areas. But the thing is, they're usually not very difficult to do. So if we can take the pilots from the missions that need to carry out the airdrops, if you can take pilots from there and put RPA there instead, then you're able to use those pilots and maximize their potential and use them in more valued missions. Also, it really boils down to keeping the pilots safe. If you don't need to put men and women in harm's way, don't do it. So in summary, I went over what RPAs are, who uses it, different missions that RPAs can support, and the advantages. Are there any questions? This concludes my briefing.